Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm taking a look at something I've meant to build for almost 10 years ago now. I saw this badass kit the first time I actually got to Japan, and I've always meant to get it ever since. Of course, this is a kit so awesome it needs no introduction, but I'll introduce it anyway. This is the Master Grade Deathscythe Hell EW, and of course, it's from Gundam Wing Endless Waltz. And seeing as this is so similar to the standard version of the Master Grade Deathscythe EW, I will throw that into the review every now and then as well to take a look at that too. But if you're like me, you might find that the Deathscythe Hell is a kind of a hard kit to find, so I was actually making an order of some kits over on Buyee, noticed I could get it through there, and that's where I got mine. So once again, this video right here would not be possible without those awesome people over at Buyee. So if you do want one of your own, there is a link down there in the description, and if you sign up through that link, you will get 1,000 yen off your first order. So that'll definitely take the sting out of a Master Grade Deathscythe Hell. Now here we go. So getting right on into the review, and there is what the Master Grade Deathscythe Hell EW looks like out of the box and just snapped together. I will mention there is a little bit of extra effort here, a very little bit, and that is just a little bit of panel lining on the dark grey parts to make the parts pop. Besides that, I have cleaned up a couple of the seams and molds just to kind of show where they are, etc. And it's just to kind of show that this kit is a little bit dated when it comes to technology, but once again, it is ahead of its time for 2011. All of the kits that use the EW Gundam frame, that is everything that includes the standard Deathscythe, Deathscythe Hell, the standard and upgraded versions of Heavy Arms, Shenlong, and Sandrock, all of those are awesome kits with a great, tight, incredibly strong ABS frame. They're all pretty much identical internally when it comes to the frame, and everything is built onto that. All of these kits are a joy to build, very simple, and the end result is awesome. Externally, there is a couple of issues I will mention soon that aren't that big of a deal, but if you've only been building recent gunpla, they might surprise you a little bit. But all I can say is I highly recommend these kits. However, I will mention that I do not recommend any of the EW versions of Gundam Wing. The reason is that's an older kit, it's definitely not as realized, it doesn't even have a full inner frame, and it is a little bit jank, especially the wings on our feathery friend here. So if you are looking for a wing, there is also the Proto Zero, but we won't be talking about that today. Back to the Deathscythe. But anyway, back to the Deathscythe Hell here, and I might as well mention that this is the only Endless Waltz updated mobile suit to get a full release. Besides, of course, the wing version, but again, that's not that great, but it's the only update that got a full release. The rest were all made P-Bandai, which makes them hard to get. Which is great because this thing is absolutely and utterly badass looking, and it's pretty awesome to boot. But anyway, I am going to take off the Batarang back here and put it on again later in the accessories part. For now, we're just going to take a look at the Deathscythe with this off. So in case you're tossing up between the two of these kits, that is the standard Deathscythe there on the left, and there is the Deathscythe Hell on the right. Of course, both are Master Grades. Here they are, well, side by side, of course. So in general, for the most part, these kits are physically identical. The only real difference is the color. The heads are the same, besides the color. The upper body is the same, besides the color. The arms, besides those shield sections on the Deathscythe Hell, those are the same. Waist unit, legs, feet, etc. Once again, it's only the color. The backpack, of course, is different over there on the standard Deathscythe, but we have taken the backpack that we've seen already, which is the active cloak of the Deathscythe Hell. The only major physical difference between the two is the shoulders. We've got those big, spiky, awesome shoulders on the Deathscythe Hell, whereas the standard Deathscythe just has those kind of long, curved, yet still awesome shoulders. And I'm just going to mention it at this point because some people ask me all the time, it's how do you keep a full, big old collection of gunpla dust-free? The answer is, I don't. That dust is earned. But anyway, let's continue. So once again, this right here is what the Deathscythe Hell looks like out of the box with minimal effort. I stuck on the stickers. If you're wondering what the stickers look like, this is them up on the screen right now. It's a very small sheet of stickers. I used them all besides the one that's meant to go on the little crotch section down here. I thought it was a little bit on the big side, and I like the clear part. As for the included decals, it's quite similar to all the other Master Grade Gundam Wing kits, and that is a set of these sticker style decals. They're mainly just words, cautions, etc. Nothing really exciting on there. And we also have an included set of dry transfers. These are the rub-on style, and this is where we get the more unique looking ones like the XXXG01D2, which is kind of iconic to this line of kits, and all in all, looking pretty cool. So finally, I'm going to mention one last thing about the general look of this kit, and that is the old tech used in making it. All of the knobs are on the surface. This is dark plastic when it comes to Bandai's kits, and potentially all kits. Well, dark plastic is a lot more inclined to mark, and mark quite badly. So once again, these are just one snip with the God Hand, so you can see where the knobs will be, and yeah, they pretty much pockmark this thing. If you use a not so good nipper, or you don't clean them up that well, this is going to be a bit of a mess, so take care with those knobs. But as well as those knobs on this kit, we also have some wicked seams, and wicked seams with knobs in the middle of the seam, so there is a lot of cleanup to do here, and even though you may take a lot of care in cleaning them up, it still can kind of mark. So I tried multiple approaches to kind of cleaning up where these knobs are. This is just standard filing, and as you can see, we do have a couple of dark spots right here. I tried cutting them from a distance and then completely buffing them out like what you can see right here, and even though the vast majority of the seam line is gone and a lot of the scratching from the file is gone, it seems like you're not really going to get rid of those particular marks so easily. They seem to be deep down in the plastic. So in this situation, you're either stuck with, well, painting it or getting used to it. And just as I'm about to talk about this massive seam and massive mold line in the side of the head, I think I was calling these down here seam lines a second ago. No, these are mold lines. Those things on the side of the head, that big gap between the plastic parts, those are seam lines. So it's got both here, knobs. A lot of old tech is used in this kit right here, so you're gonna have to do a lot of gluing, cleaning, etc. to make it look perfect. Also, the plastic's very brittle, and I may have broke this piece off completely, but I glued it back on, it looks fine. But yeah, in general, with this kit right here, I do feel it does feel a little bit on the old side. So once again, you're gonna have to clean up a lot of knobs, mold lines. If you want to, there'll be some seam lines you'll have to clear up there as well by gluing the parts together. And the plastic is brittle and prone to breaking, and there's a lot of parts you have to squeeze together quite a bit. So once again, be careful with this kit. It does turn out beautiful though. So like I said, I will touch on the standard version of the Master Grade Gundam Deathscythe EW as well, and this is it right here. So this kit has all the same issues as the Deathscythe Hell is. They are pretty much identical for the most part. But if you've built a lot of gunpla, you may have noticed already and noticed yourself that white plastic tends to mark less, is easier to clean up, and in general the details tend to pop a little better, etc. So that does mean all those little imperfections like the knob marks, mold lines, all of those sort of things, those don't tend to show up as much and it's much easier to clean up. Of course, the darker plastic on here, which is the almost purplish color, that does mark a little bit, but not as bad as the grey and black on the Hell version. Of course, we do have that big old seam inside the head and everything like that as well, but on the whole, the standard version of the Deathscythe is beautiful and easier to clean up than the Hell. So moving right on into the accessories, and first up we've got the Master Grade Deathscythe Hell with absolutely everything that it comes with. So in here we've got the old Batarang back here, which is the active cloak. We've got a scythe giving him the Deathscythe name, and then we've got those swappable fingers we see with all these EW kits. These are interchangeable with the seed kits that came out a little bit later. That is always good to know. And we've got a base adapter, so there isn't really a whole lot in here, but these kits were cheap. And I mean super cheap. So Deathscythe Hell was definitely the most expensive of the bunch when that came out. First, it was 4,500 yen, but of course that's not really what you'd pay in store, it'd be a little bit cheaper. And this guy right here, the standard version of the Deathscythe, there it is with everything that it comes with. This was 3,800 yen. That was its retail price, but once again, you'd never pay that price. When I saw these in Japan, I'm still kicking myself to this day for not grabbing them all back then. These were 2,800 yen in most stores, which is next to nothing for a Master Grade kit. That is nuts. But anyway, this version of the Deathscythe, it comes with the Buster Shield. Once again, the same scythe as before, the same hands as before, the same action base adapter as before. It is, however, missing one effect part. I actually built this kit before I started labeling the boxes I put the accessories away into, so it is in one of those unlabeled boxes somewhere, so can't find it right now. So as for the hands, they're that typical Gundam Wing EW Master Grade style swappable fingers. So what we have in here is the standard things we've seen a billion times before, so that is fists, widespread dynamic, and two different pairs of these holding hands. They look identical except one has a tab inside for holding the scythe, the other does not. Of course, this finger right here is on a wiggly ball. As for what we have in here next, it's the scythe. This is made of multiple different parts, but it doesn't actually do anything. We've got a series of little open sections along this surface, so that means it can be grabbed at any point like that with the fingers with the tab section, so they just attach on simple as so, and that is definitely quite a good hold. This little effect part right here, this can be popped off if you want to display it without the energy effect. And all that's left to do with this is attach it on. Woohoo. So when it is on the fingers, you just attach the fingers in here like this. And once again, simple and effective. So there's what Deathscythe Hell looks like holding onto it, and let's have a game of who wore it better. And move on over to the standard version of Deathscythe EW over here. So everything is exactly the same. The fingers are exactly the same, the scythe is exactly the same, and so is the effect part. So it all attaches the same exact way. So there is both versions of the Master Grade Deathscythe EW up on the shelf side by side, so you can see them, well, side by side with the sides, and decide which one you like better. Sorry. Either way, there's two things worth pointing out right here. One is, when you actually see these particular mobile suits beside some Universal Century ones, you realize these are quite small. As you can see, compared to the full armor from Thunderbolt right there, even without its armor, it's much bigger than one of these. The second thing is, you might wonder why. Well, why is Deathscythe missing its arm? It's missing its arm. Why is that? Well, it turns out I went and broke it. I don't know why any of these Katoki kits, or a lot of older Katoki kits, have this annoying little way in which the pegs are designed. So they're not just a full cylinder, they actually attach with this weird plus design, which makes them incredibly easy to break, and I hate the goddamn things. Anyway, moving on. Reminds me of the damn Sinanju again. Oh god, I broke that 3 times. So anyway, next up on the list of accessories is this right here, which is your standard handy dandy base adapter. This is exactly the same for both kits, so I'm only going to try it out on the Hell right here, because, well, this guy's had enough problems in his life today, so just this guy. So it just pops on up near the back right here, like so, simple as. Let's try popping him onto an action base, and that is pretty solid, no problems there. I've already tried it on with this before, so I can tell you it is fine, even with the heavy old Batarang attached. And speaking of which, next up then is the Batarang. So this is one of the coolest cloaks and or wings I've ever seen on a kit. This is crazy. It is a bunch of fairly large parts, and there is a lot of kind of like folding going on inside of the plastic there. That's not as pretty as it could be. Of course, if you're painting that won't be much of an issue. In general, it's not as noticeable as it is under this kind of harsh lighting, so it doesn't always look that crazy. But anyway, articulation-wise, you've got these little red segments up top, can swing out like this. This can then extend out at this point like that. That's 2 points of extension. It can bend in like that then. Pretty awesome, and bend out about that far right there. Now we've got a second point where this can pull out like this. It is a little hard to do. There it is when it's out, and this unlocks an up and down movement like so. I will mention though, this point right here, these parts never fully come into contact for me. I'm not sure if it's something that was assembled somewhat wrong, but I feel like there just isn't a peg up here somewhere or clip to hold this together, so this might be something that you might want to glue to avoid that there. Let me know down in the comments if you have this kit right here. Do you have that same issue right there, or is something not clipped right? As far as I know, it's fully clipped. The last bit of articulation then is this little moving up and down segment here, and of course that will angle it once it's attached to its back. And speaking of being attached to its back, it is not directly compatible with the standard version of the Deathscythe here, which has a couple of little notches on its attachment point right here and a slightly different attachment section round back. That doesn't mean you wouldn't be able to customize that pretty simply to make it attach, but as it stands out of the box, it's not going to attach. There is the Deathscythe Hell's backpack adapter segment, or should I say just backpack slot, for the sake of comparison. So this attaches on quite easily. You just pop it into that slot section. It attaches in easy, but I'll tell you, it does not come out that easy. So it took a bit of a struggle to detach this earlier on, but it clips in easy as that right there. So yeah, there is no denying how awesome this is. So finally, this does have that folding mechanism to make this into a big old shield shroud, so let's check that out. So first off, you need to pull those white segments on the shoulders up. I recommend taking the arms off, as we've seen what's already happened to one of the arms on the standard Deathscythe already. Then you just bring that whole cloak segment forward, right out in front of Deathscythe itself, and then there's 2 little red clips on those little red swingy parts we saw already. They attach together, and there we go. Very, Very, very simple. So there is one aspect of the standard Deathscythe I didn't get to look at just yet, and that is the Buster Shield. So this opens up like a little crab claw, which is pretty awesome. There is an effect part that goes in here. Once again, I don't have that handy right now. It looks like what you're seeing on the screen right now, in case you are interested, and it is the same effect color as the scythe right here. Besides that, this attaches onto the forearm. Here is the forearm in question. It just attaches into the hole on the side like this. And we've already seen before what this looks like, so I'll pop it back up on the screen so you can see what it looks like attached. So anyway, moving on to the final segment of the review, and as usual, that is the build and the articulation. So the build of these kits, they're solid as a rock. It's one thing I have to say about these, that ABS frame makes them pretty much bulletproof, except when the arm twists off like it did on the other guy, but besides that, they seem quite solid. They've all held up pretty good for me. The armor on this though, it is a little bit on the brittle side, so be careful. So as usual, starting from the neck down, this is extremely basic. It is a pair of ball joints that's quite limited. That's all the way up, all the way down. Side to side will bring it all the way around, but it feels a little bit odd. There is a side to side tilt. I'm going to stick to my normal rule. If anything falls off, it stays off, and the butt armor on this is notorious for falling off. So the shoulder joint in here allows the arms to move forward like this, so back and forward. This gives the full 360 spin then. The armor up here, when it is detached, can move up and down like so, but it locks into place like that. The shoulder armor can move slightly independently to the arm, but not so much. For the most part, it moves around with it. Speaking of the arm, there it is raised as far as it will go. The armor kind of clashes there a bit, but you get it about parallel to the ground. Full rotation at the upper arm as usual. Next up, there is the bend at the elbow, and that's pretty awesome. Won't be looking for much more than that. The wrist here is your basic ball joint. This little bit of armor is just kind of held on by the hand itself, so it gets in the way a little bit, but not so much. The thumb is a ball joint as well, so that can move around like so. In the torso, we do have our standard master grade feature, which is the opening cockpit with pilot figure. As for the ab crunch, it's not the worst and it's not the greatest, so that is what we get. There is the side to side. It's mainly limited to down here, but a little bit happens up a little further. As for rotation, it does get blocked a bit, but it does go all the way around. Moving down to this skirting armor, this is mainly ball joints, but there is a bit of a hinge. So you get the normal ball joint movement out to the side, in like this, up ever so slightly. The ball joints on the side and rear skirts are these weird kind of, well, elongated balls. So they only kind of work up and down. If you twist them at all, they just kind of pop off. That means the side skirt here is essentially up and down, but you do get a bit of back and... Well, what did I say about rotating them? A bit of a headache. So we get up. Oh, look at that. It's off already. These are incredibly loose. So you've got up and down right there, side to side, but that tends to make them pop off. And yeah, woo, not very fun. Seeing as the side skirts and front skirts, actually all the skirts have fallen off, we can see into the waist joint there. It is just a standard rotating peg, so there's no dropping mechanism or anything in there. Very simple. However, that does mean it's quite solid. So there is the kick all the way up to the front, so that is extremely nice. All the way out to the back. It might get a little bit blocked when the butt flaps are on there, but not when they're not. And as for the leg out to the side, this is one of the tightest joints on a master grade ever, so I recommend holding it very close to the joint while moving it, but still, it puts an awful lot of pressure on this peg right here. But you can do the entire splits with this, but I'm not going to push it any more than I have to. We don't have full rotation at this leg here because of the armor does block that a bit round here at the back, so it's there to there. Next up then, there is the bend at the knee, and that has a very nice moving gimmick. Again, it's not the prettiest looking knee around, but it does its job very well. Once again, there is the armor shift while it moves. That is extremely nice. There it is all the way back up. The ankle is the same as what we've seen on the other EW master grades. That is the double ball joint, so there is rotation up here, as well as wiggle, 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 and rotation down here, as well as wiggle, 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 and pivot. So it's pretty good. We also have a bit of a drop at the toes, which is extremely nice, and this little spike can move from here all the way to there. But anyway, let's check out that functional movement on the ground. So this is what we can get without the foot leaving the ground at all, and there it is all the way to the front, so that's all we're gonna get. Not a whole lot, but then again, not the worst. Out to the back then, it is that there. So that does look extremely nice, and the most important one in general is the side-to-side pivot for those wide leg dynamic poses. And there it is, side to side. So about average, and not so bad. So that right there is it for the review, and as for the Master Grade Deathscythe Hell EW and the Master Grade Deathscythe EW, both of these to me are solid silver tier kits. So before you think that's a bad thing, silver is a good thing. That is exactly what I expect from the line in general. So these to me have always been the baseline for Master Grades. The EW line of Gundam Wing Master Grade Gunpla is one of the first lines I really got into back in the day, and they kind of give me what I feel is the grounded baseline quality for Master Grade. They do everything they need to do well and nothing more. There is no flaws per se with the kits besides maybe some loose skirting armor, but that's no big deal breaker. The shoulder that broke on my Deathscythe, that I think is just because the kit is so old, and it was literally shipped across the world, all the way from Japan to Ireland in a cardboard box full of other Master Grades, so it probably took a few whacks on the way. And more than likely I didn't notice that that joint was stressed out. But like I said, these are silver tier kits, but I highly recommend them. Silver tier does not mean they're bad, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're average, it just means compared to Master Grade in general, they're baseline. They will treat you very well, and I highly recommend them. Anyway, once again, I got my Deathscythe through Buyee. It wasn't available anywhere else, so if you're looking for some rare, hard to get, or premium Bandai kits, then check out that link down there in the description. But anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. As always, I cannot finish this video right here without thanking each and every one of you guys who watches my videos. Whether you just watch them, like them, share them, or support me on the channel memberships and Patreon like Craig Jerry, Kaiser721, Bolwick, Tyler Sanders, Caleb Engelhart, and Hank Handsome.